One of the things that I find really interesting about modern video game discourse is how it tends to erase a lot of the things that happened years prior. A lot of people will talk about things like DLSS and ray tracing and TAA and all other sorts of bells and whistles with the technology of graphics processing today, and how video games are unoptimized in a way that they've never been before. And to me, that sounds like they've never played the original Crysis before, or they've never played something like Far Cry 2 on a GeForce 7800. In the 90s and the 2000s, most PC games were just PC games. They did not typically have a console counterpart. It wasn't really until the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 4 that we started to get a lot of console and PC parity. But now with more modern titles, you will see a more cohesive visual style from your very low settings to your very high settings, which contrasted with how older games used to be. The very low settings were wildly different from your very high settings. And even today, you will see a shift from very low to very high, but it's not as drastic. And even going from high to very high, there is little to no difference. And you're also using more of your hardware to get to that very high setting compared to the high setting. I look at DLSS and ray tracing as just new evolutions of something like shadows or anti-aliasing or just geometry meshes. These are just more settings for us to tinker with, and we are getting more options to play with than we've gotten in the past. Every company out there will do their very best to make their product look as good as they possibly can. And it's important to remember that there's a rule of thumb with all computer hardware, is that the next step up of an upgrade will typically be 10 to 20% faster performing than its last gen predecessor. No amount of marketing will change that. It is typically a 10 to 20% increase for what you are buying. And it's also important to remember that you will probably have a better time with your video games when you are not concerned about frame rates and graphical fidelity, and you are just playing the game to play the game itself.